Usually I don't cover a lot of Sonic things on this channel unless it's specifically Child Garden, because Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is the Sonic game that I played growing up. I've dipped into other Sonic games before, but I've never actually sat down with the intention of beating them, rather than playing around for a while and then doing whatever else I had to do for the day. When it comes to Sonic 1 specifically, I never really owned a copy as far as I can remember. I did own Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube, but when given a chance to play between the original Sonic the Hedgehog and the GOAT that is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, 100% of the time I would pick the latter. There must have been a Steam sale at some point because there were a lot of Sonic games sitting in my Steam library that I've either never played or I played once a long time ago and then I don't know what I just never played them again.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
I've been wanting to get into Sonic a little bit more though recently. What better place to start than the beginning, right? Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a better place to start, so I decided to play the Sonic Origins version of this game because it would be the most accessible and the best viewing experience since the gaming screen has been widened to 16:9 from the classic game's 4:3. This means I would have to play Anniversary mode rather than Classic mode, which comes with a plethora of additional bonuses that the original Sonic 1 didn't have. Infinite lives is one bonus, but I'm what the fellows call a god gamer, so this bonus is irrelevant until Labyrinth Zone. Also, if I fail at special stages, I can spend coins for a retry. As game-breaking as those features sound though, nothing compares to finally being able to spin dash in Sonic 1. This is going to make the game a lot more speedy and bearable. There's also the drop dash, straight from Mania, which I haven't played, so I don't know the best way to use it. I didn't even remember I had it until somewhere near the second act of the first level. During my playthrough, I found myself using the spin dash so much, and it felt so natural that I don't think I could go back to playing this without it. It broke a few places, like a fan in Starlight Zone, but it was an amazing addition. And with no further delay, let's get into this bad boy. Green Hill Zone is exactly as I remember it. One of the best zones in the game. It was amazing how much I remembered from my childhood, even though I never owned the game. Green Hill Zone was the stage that was always waiting for me whenever I picked up Sonic 1, and I'd usually get my fill by the end of the third act. I was never really up for playing Marbel Zone after, but we'll get to that in a bit. I hear the magic of Green Hill Zone has died out after all the subsequent Green Hill Zones and Green Hill Zone clones, but I haven't beaten too many Sonic games, so I haven't seen all of them. Revisiting Sonic 1, I decided to do something I never attempted as a child: stay on the top path. I hear that the top path is a skilled path in Sonic games and that it's the most rewarding. Honestly, I don't remember any of this being up here. There's this section where there's the bottom half of a pyramid of rings, and I distinctly remember hating this shape because there was never really a surefire way to get all of the rings gathered here in a single jump. That really frustrated the perfectionist in my child self. I remember the special stage rings always being easy to get during the first two acts, but at the time, I never knew how to really make them appear. Going into it again after all this time, I quickly realized you need about 50 rings. I think you need exactly 50 rings. Though I liked collecting rings and never losing them, I guess I just didn't correlate the two in my head when I was younger. And about special stages themselves, we'll come back to that later. The end of Act 2 always spiked my anxiety. There's a point near the end that makes you gather a lot of speed, and you can end up missing the special ring at the end because you were going too fast and didn't think to turn around. I find that Green Hill Zone Act 3 has the most verticality out of all of the acts. It just seemed to keep going up, and there was a lot of platforming, a lot more than I remember. I know part of this was because back in the day, I used to just try to run forward and run fast without paying much attention to the platforming. This would often end up making me stay at the bottom level of the acts. Until my recent playthroughs of this game, I didn't even bother to explore or stick to the higher, more skillful paths. Going into the boss for this stage, I thought it was going to be the one where Robotnik was in a car with a drill in the front and he was trying to run me over, but as soon as I saw the Wrecking Ball, I remembered. That was Sonic 2, which was the first Sonic game I ever played. As of publishing this video, I've beaten Sonic 2 by now. Surely I have. This Robotnik just cruises back and forth in the sky, swinging his massive ball and trying to hit Sonic with it. I would say that it's kind of successful. Sometimes he speeds up and it makes it difficult to jump around it. I mean, I beat him, it was easy, but I did get hit once or twice. After Green Hill Zone comes Marbel Zone, which I keep wanting to call Marbel Garden Zone, but they are in fact two different zones. It's an ancient temple that spans deep underground, flooded with lava, and to be honest, I never understood why. There's constant flowing magma here, but there's also bountiful grass at the tops of these platforms, and it just seems like there would be a lot more charred things. I don't know how to explain it. Like, there's a bustling forest right there, and I feel like everything should be on fire. Anyway, this is where the speed of Sonic 1 begins to slow down. This is no longer an enjoyable stroll through the physics playground that is Green Hill. There's push block puzzles, there's spiky chandeliers, oh, and lava. There's lava as well, there's a lot of lava. You can't just carelessly hold right and press jump anymore. There will be waiting. When I was younger, I always noted this to be one of my lesser favorite stages. Not my least favorite, we all know what that's gonna be. But Marbel Zone certainly wasn't a hit like Springyard Zone or my sweet child, Starlight Zone. Still, there are things to appreciate about Marbel Zone, the main thing being its immersion. The music sounds like you're actually about to enter a treacherous temple of some kind. I like these little cubbies that you can slip into by backtracking, that usually have a few monitors that'll give you some rings or other stuff. Stepping on a platform like this pushes it into the lava, enough so that it starts to catch fire, which is a really nice touch. I'd like to think that these double steel pillars covered with glass were the very first instances of me experiencing instant death by crushing in a video game. This fuels me to be overzealously careful around them even to this day. I used to hate the spikes that periodically come out of the wall, but now that I'm such a better gamer than I was when I was a kid, they don't bother me too much anymore. What does bother me though are the sections where you're standing on a block and waiting for it to go while it moves at a snail's pace across the lava. That's not the only situation where you have to wait either. There's parts where if you miss the spiky chandelier when it first comes down, you have to wait for it to crank all the way back up and then drop again. Sonic was never really a game that advertised having to be patient, so this was probably one of the only franchises where having to sit and wait really stands out as a pace breaker. I must say though, despite all of this, I did find enjoyment in Marbel Zone. The song is pretty catchy and the boss of the 3 acts is very fun to fight. My first playthrough, I felt a strange tinge of adrenaline while I was jumping from platform to avoid the fire. Since I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. Robotnik's boss theme is kinda heat, it's flames, it's a bit dope if you will. So I would go as far as to say that I like Marbel Zone, but this is likely because of another stage that I hate so much that every other stage in the game feels like a breath of fresh air. Next up is Springyard Zone, and it was a zone that I remembered fondly. Also, it features the first musical bop of the series. Green Hill Zone is decent, Marbel Zone is immersive, but Springyard Zone was a zone I would listen to for the sake of listening to it. Springyard Zone is like a pinball amusement park, set at sunset in the middle of a city somewhere. There are 2 things I remembered about this zone going back into it. One was this half pipe where you could build speed and ramp all the way up and then back down again. I really liked that. I really liked playing with that engine. The sense of speed felt so nice to my younger self. The second thing was this fake Sonic that looks nothing like Sonic, but it gets a mention because I thought it was cool that a badnik could curl into a ball and be fast like me. I didn't like it as an enemy though because it was annoying and it hit me a lot of the time, but I thought the concept was cool. This stage was just good old-fashioned fun, and even though there were a few spots where you'd have to wait on these levitating platform blocks, the waiting wasn't too egregious. There's also some cool walls to explore that I had fun finding. Notably, during my second playthrough, I do remember being pretty salty that after I beat Springyard Zone, I'd have to play Labyrinth Zone. In the midst of my brooding, I discovered something pretty funny. That's right, in Springyard Zone there's literally signs that say cope. This is the only one that I paid attention to, but it says cope right there. It says it right there, which is what you're gonna have to do as soon as you get through this stage. The boss of Springyard Zone is pretty interesting. No joking, it can combo you. Either that or I just have really bad luck. The Egg Stinger, the boss of the stage, whose name I didn't know until I looked it up for research, flies over the battlefield and then comes down, picking up a block until you run out of space or you blow up the mech. It's very possible for this boss to hit you with some shenanigans right out of a cartoon.
Come on. I'm an idiot. Are you?
Other than a small chance of this happening, the boss is pretty fun and pretty easy. And it's gonna be the last bit of fun you get for some time. Labyrinth Zone. I've passively dogged on Labyrinth Zone a few times in this video, but now it's time to aggressively and directly dog on Labyrinth Zone. It feels like a spiteful employee slipped in like some sort of saboteur and created some trash that would attempt to make me hate this game. I'm convinced that this stage was only playtested in a vacuum rather than part of the complete package. It's such a pace breaker in what had previously been very likable stages up to this point, and if this had been the first stage of the game, the whole thing probably would have bombed. To be honest, the whole thing probably would have just bombed. Whereas if you take something like maybe my blessed child Starlight Zone and put it as the first stage, it would stand on its own. Same with Springyard Zone. But I don't want to just sit here and rant for a whole like 5-10 minutes about how much I hate this stage. Instead, I'm going to play a short montage of how much I hate this stage, so we can move on. Now, during recording, I didn't plan on anyone hearing my voice because I was going to narrate over it like I'm doing right now. So this is like natural reactions to what was going on at the time.
There's no way that someone made this on purpose and then put it again at the end of the game. Oh my god. Why is it this long? Let me out of here. You fuck! I hate this. Please let me free. I don't care. Let me out. 4 minutes. I gotta do 3 of those. I think it's pretty gnarly that he breathes air bubbles underwater. Oh my. Ah! Yep. Yep. Get me out of here. Labyrinth Zone is stupid. Oh, I'm done. Yay.
And you know what? While I'm here, I'm gonna get Scrap Brain Zone Act 3 out of the way because it's basically just Labyrinth Zone Act 4 Deluxe.
No! Anything but Labyrinth Zone. What made them think we wanted to go back here? I didn't ask for more Labyrinth Zone. No, it doesn't matter if I'm done. Fuck off! This is such garbage! Ah! Is there breathing up here? There's no breathing. Ha!
I swear the big bubbles are programmed to come out less here than they are in Labyrinth Zone, and that's annoying. A part of me wonders if I'd rather take the entirety of Labyrinth Zone over Scrap Brain Zone Act 3, but probably not. It's all garbage, for it is all garbage. It is all of it is garbage. The only redeeming quality of Labyrinth Zone is the music, sometimes when I'm not angry. Moving on. Starlight Zone is the warm welcome back to the actual game of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 with its catchy music and its glittering nighttime atmosphere. I would think that a lot of people whose favorite level is Starlight Zone probably feel even more affinity for it because it's after the slow slog that is Labyrinth Zone. You finally get to crank up to high speeds again. There's a cool little fan gimmick going on. There's a weird new kind of partial loop that's pretty fun to traverse. This is a zone that just lets Sonic be Sonic, whether that's rolling around everywhere, jumping on bad guys, or playing on this seesaw thing that I also enjoy. The seesaw was one of my favorite mechanics as a kid. I thought I could just keep gaining altitude infinitely, and this zone just feels like a reward for beating the previous one. Speeding around and rocking out with an awesome tune in the background is the pinnacle of Sonic gameplay, which is why I think this zone just might be my favorite zone out of Sonic 1. I think Starlight Zone is my favorite zone of Sonic 1. And not only is it my favorite zone of Sonic 1, it also contains my favorite boss of Sonic 1. You get to use the seesaw mechanic against the boss at the end of the stage, and that's awesome. I think if I had to find one thing wrong with Starlight Zone, it's these things. These are basically bombs called bombs that explode, but you can't hit them. In every instance I've tried to hit them, I've taken damage, so I feel like I just have to avoid them outright. But that's fine. They aren't too obtrusive, and the zone is still the best zone in the game. And finally, we come to Scrap Brain Zone, the penultimate zone, and Dr. Eggman's secret base. I can't ever remember passing this stage when I was a kid. This time when I played, I restarted the stage a few times to make the special stage ring appear at the end, but it never did. I don't think that it does. And then I found out by researching it, and no, it does not appear at the end of Scrap Brain Zone levels. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to get all 6 emeralds in my first playthrough, but it's fine. I died a few times at the beginning during both playthroughs because I was trying to rush rather than take my time. I didn't even understand how to get through this part at first until I winged it. These crushers filled me with a bit of anxiety because I do not enjoy instant death, and these bad boys inflict death instantly. Act 2 gave us a few new things to play with, like Yoku blocks straight out of Mega Man. We also get this cool spinning gear. Now I like this thing. I never understood the physics of how Sonic could run on this thing without falling off, but I like the fact that you can curl into a ball and shoot off of it into the air. I think the first 2 acts are fitting for a final stage. The music is pretty bumpin' and it sounds like you're really inside of some sort of big industrial factory. After getting out of the hill that is Scrap Brain Zone Act 3, you're transported to one final zone, which is the final zone. Fighting the final boss, I don't quite understand what Robotnik's goal is here from a practical standpoint, but I can say that this boss is a bit time consuming and kinda nerve-wracking because I entered it with 0 rings, and you can't get any rings on the way there, and it kinda sucks. In comparison to the other bosses of the game, it does have the final boss-like vibes, since it uses the entire screen to do combat. I did die the first time I tried it, but after realizing I could abuse the spin dash to zip from one corner to the other and avoid the electrical balls, The fight became a lot easier. It was slower because I only attacked the outer 2 pillars mostly, but it was easier. Also, a fun bit of trivia, I didn't know this thing was called the Egg Crusher. That's pretty fitting. But it dies, and then Robotnik tries to escape, and you hit him, and he blows up, and you save South Island from his reign of terror. My first playthrough of the game, I ended up getting the bad ending, which is when you beat the game without collecting all of the Chaos Emeralds. As I mentioned before, by the time I realized I might not get all of the Chaos Emeralds in time, I was on Scrap-Brain Zone Act 1, and the special stage ring stopped showing up by the time you make it there. This meant I would have to play the entire game all over again to collect the 6 Chaos Emeralds and get the good ending. So I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and that's exactly what I did. I wasn't going to have Eggman laughing at me and juggling my 1 Chaos Emerald that I missed, telling me, try again. No, I went right back in there. Now I can take the time to talk about special stages. Upon reaching the end of Act 1 or 2 of a zone with at least 50 rings, you unlock the special stage ring. Touching the special stage ring takes you to the special stage. I gotta say, these are kinda fun. They aren't my favorite special stages though. That probably goes to Blue Spheres from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I would say the ambiance and the sound design of the special stages give off a very calming feel, if the actual gameplay didn't make me extra nervous. So I found out playing this time around that if you touch the R, it goes in reverse, and the up means speed up, and the down means speed down. My stupid child self used to try to get to the goal as fast as possible because it said goal, but that is not the goal. The goal is the Chaos Emerald, and I struggled a couple of times to get them.
No.
I can say that I did like hitting the little diamonds that protected the Chaos Emeralds. There's something very satisfying about clearing them. In the end, I did finally get the good ending, which I had put up on the community tab of my channel. It was pretty cool because I never really got the good ending of any Sonic game. All the Chaos Emeralds swirled around and floated up, and then I got the cool flowers when they vanished. It was kinda neat. And that could summarize the entire Sonic the Hedgehog 1 experience pretty well. It was pretty neat. It wasn't a Sonic 2 or 3, but I can enjoy it for what it is. Did you know there's apparently a mod to get rid of Labyrinth Zone?